Hello and welcome back. This is the final part to going over the October 2023 SAT. We're starting from question number 22 and we'll get all the way down to question number 38 with the grading questions. Now this is the portion where you really need to pay close attention to because they're tough. They save the best for last, they say. This is where it happens. So this is usually the difference maker between a kid who gets a 750 versus an 800. Let's get started with number 22. Right out of the gate, we see linear equation problem, 2x plus 4y equals 100. And then they ask you to figure out which of the following is the best representation of this equation. For some reason, a lot of students just really have a tough time with this, but the way that I always tell them is that, okay, so there's really two clear points that you can utilize. There's a y-intercept and an x-intercept for every single one of these choices. You can see that. So, 1 second here. I don't know why hello. Okay, so here, so the voice was not registering. So here, those 2 points essentially is what you're going to be using to figure the graph choices out. So if y was equal to 25, x is equal to 0 here. And if x is equal to 50, y is equal to 0 here. Now, those 2 points must make sense when you plugged it into the equation. Yes, you can solve for y. Y equals, 4y equals negative 2x plus 100 divided by 4 on both sides. Then you can say y equals negative 1/2 x plus 25. And that will already tell you your y-intercept should be 25. The correct answer here is A, because the y-intercept here, the only one that gives you 25 is A. But plug in your x and y-intercepts into the equation, you should still get equal to 100. For other word problems that look similar to this, that's the best way to do it, or to solve for y. Number 23, rectangle X has a length of 12, width of 2.5. Okay, so with that in mind, let's see what's going. Let's see. So right triangle Y has a base of 10 centimeters. So we have Y, which is a base of 10. So that's X and that's Y. The area of rectangle X is 3 times the area of triangle Y. So first, let's find out the area of this rectangle, which you already know. That's 12 times 2.5, which is 30. Then it says the area of a rectangle is 3 times the area of right triangle Y, which means I need to divide that by 3. So in order to figure out the area of the triangle, whatever this is, multiply by 3 gives you 30. So in other words, if I want to undo that times 3, I have to divide by 3. So the area of the triangle obviously here will be 10. All right, so I have the area of the triangle. Seems like we have area equals 1/2 base times height. The area is 10, plug it in, and base is already 10 here, so we can figure out the height. So 10 equals 1/2 10 times the height. Double it to get rid of the half. 20 equals 10h, so h must be 2 to get the area of 10. Number 24, according to a 2008 study, there are 5 known subspecies of tigers. Okay, so there were 5, including the Amur and Bengal living in the wild. Scientists estimated that there were a total of 4,000 tigers in the wild. Out of these 450 Amur tigers and X were Bengal tigers. Which inequality represents all possible numbers of tigers? Okay, so first of all, we have 5 known subspecies. I think a lot of students forget that there are 5 instead of just Amur and Bengal, because they tell you 450 were Amur tigers, so I'm just going to write A equals 450, B is equal to X. So the total number of tigers here is 450 plus X, obviously. Which inequality represents all possible number of tigers in the wild in 2008 that belong to the Bengal tiger subspecies? We're trying to solve for X. And what they decide to do is, if there are a total of 4,000 tigers, well, what's 4,000 minus 450? Because we certainly do not want to count the Amur tigers. That's 3,550. And then they just kind of like get bamboozled because what is going on after that? I don't see 3,550 for any of these choices, but there were 3 other known subspecies. There were a total of 5, C, D, and E. What's the minimum number of tiger that you can have to consider that as a species? Well, let's consider them all to be 1s, because that's the minimum number that you need to have to count as a subspecies group. So the maximum number technically for Bengal tigers is 3,550, but you need to subtract the 1 from C, 1 from D, and 1 from E. So that's subtracting 3 essentially, which is 3,550 minus 3, a total of 3,447 Bengal tiger subspecies. I'm sorry, 3,547. What am I doing? So that will be the total Bengal subspecies tigers, the number that could be maximized, because this is minimized. So the only answer that gives you that is this. So it's C. Yes, you can have one more. Okay, so the Bengal tigers, you need to count as one. And process of elimination also, like A and B makes absolutely no sense. A means that X can be more than 800. This means it could be more than a whopping 20,000. I mean, that means that X can go on pretty much to infinite. A and B are out. This doesn't make any sense because 3,547 is supposed to be your maximum possible count. It can't be 4,000. Then what about the 450 Amur tigers that they specified in the first place? So use POE, process of elimination, or you can just use this as an example. I hope that explains where the 3,547 even came from in the first place. All right, geometry question. Which of the following additional piece of information provides enough information to prove whether that is a right triangle? All right, so if I have a measure of D as 90, sure, that will prove it's a right triangle. The length of segment DF, sure, if that was a 4, because then it would be a Pythagorean triple. So it's either 1 or 2. That will be enough whether DEF is a right triangle. You could have one or the other. Number 26. That this number will decrease by 14%. Oh my goodness. That means it's 1 minus the rate. I already know that from exponential modeling questions. Decreasing by 14% means 1 minus 0.14. You take away from 100 away to 14. So when you do 1 minus 14, you get 0.86. Therefore, the correct answer here should be C. That's the only one that has it. And if you want the full picture, a exponential function model should always follow t for time, initial value a, 1 plus the rate for growth, 1 minus rate for the decay. And you always raise it to the top power of time to indicate how many times you're multiplying that by. And that should do the trick. 27. Linear equation is that the system has no solution. No solution means the same slope, different y-intercept. We already went over that in section 3. All right, so we have negative 6x plus 7y equals negative 6. All right, and we want to have the same slope. But in all honesty, I'm just gonna use the answer choices and like solve it one by one, I guess, because right out of the gate, A seems like a lovely answer. When you add the top and bottom using elimination, they both cancel out, but this gives you negative 6. Makes no sense. How is 0 equal negative 6? So therefore it's A. I don't really feel like doing B, C, and D, but just to show you guys how this is done, because look at all those crazy fractions, right? The reason why D doesn't work is because this is going to give you infinite solution. You can write it down too. 6x plus 7y equals negative 6. 6x minus 7y equals 6. Just add them top and bottom. Everything cancels out. 0 equals 0. That's infinite solution because that means that you literally have the exact same thing twice. All of these has to be converted into non-fractions. So multiply all of this by 8, you get negative 42x plus 49y equals negative 42. Divide all of this by 7, negative 6x plus 7y equals negative 6. I essentially get the same exact thing as the original, so this is going to give you infinite solutions, just like D would. C, I would multiply everything by 4, negative 21x minus, what is that, 56, y equals 0. This divide by 7, negative 3x minus 8y. Well, I mean, that's different slope. You can solve that, multiply, and get rid of x's and y's, and then you should be able to solve. This will give you one solution if you do that. So the only answer that gives you is A, because you can just try out with elimination and then you can just get to the answer. And when the time is running out, you don't really have to check for B, C, and D, and especially when it looks that complicated. Number 28. All right, so what does this represent? So what are we dealing with here? X represents the years after it was planted, and the trunk diameter was 22.24. X years after. Okay, so that makes sense. So 2 is obviously then is your initial. How do I know that? Because this is your final. after X years is passed. So what does this 0.64 represent? That's how much it grew per year. So this entire thing is how much it grew in X years from the 2, what was it, feet? Yeah, or 2 inches. Yeah, it was 2 inches from the get-go. Then it grew by a whopping 0.64x in total, 0.64 per year. So 0.64x is the total increase of the tree trunk diameter X years after it was planted. That's what this represents. If I go through all the other incorrect answer choices, the tree's trunk diameter X years after it was planted, that's the total, 22.24. The maximum tree trunk diameter of the tree over its lifetime. Huh? How do you know that? It's gonna infinitely grow unless it gets cut, because it's a linear function, it's a positive slope, so it's gonna go infinitely taller and taller every time. So there's no such thing as a maximum. It's not like quadratic or anything. The total increase of the tree's trunk diameter each year. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That's exactly 0.64 per year. So even though D sounds really good, it's not. It's the slope. But we're not talking about the slope. We're talking about the slope along with the X. So it's the total increase. All right, 29. 29 is a quadratic question, and you know this. A lot of kids picked A because they see those 2 points and go, "Oh, it must be this and this." That's incorrect because it doesn't show you the maximum value of y as a constant or coefficient. This means anytime a College Board has this word, it means that it has to be visibly shown on the equation. What does the maximum value of a quadratic graph mean? It's the vertex. They want you to have the vertex as part of your equation. Better remember the vertex form then. Ax minus h squared plus k. Do I even know what a vertex is? Yes, I can spend the next 5 minutes talking about it and then just, well, like, 1 minute figuring it out. It's halfway between 8 and 32, so that should be 20 because that moves 12 this way, 12 that way. Okay, so your x value is 20. You plug in x as 20 into your equation. That's a lot of work to do, so I'm not going to do that. But what's really important is that you understand that it comes from a vertex form. The only one that looks like a vertex form is B. So there's no need for you to do any math. And lo and behold, your x coordinate is 20 from your vertex form anyway. So that confirms that you did this correctly. Memorize vertex form. It's so important for you to do that. So it's B because we want the vertex to be shown. Clearly, we can tell that the vertex is 20, 144. And I guarantee you plug in 20 into this equation, you should get 144 that way as well. All right, next. Okay, without any further ado, I seem like I can just cross multiply these two because I'm given a ratio. So that's 9 times x minus 3 equals 7 times x minus 3. The value of x minus 3 is between which of the following two pairs? All right, so let's do 9x minus 27 equals 7x minus 21, distribute. Then 7x subtracted on the other side gives me 2x. Move the 27 to the other side, that gives me 6 by adding 27 on both sides. So then x equals 3 then, right? So what is the value of x minus 3? Ooh, if you picked C, you did not read the question carefully. They want you to find out the value between a value of x minus 3. 3 minus 3 the last time I checked was 0. C, you only accounted for x. That's the silly mistake. If we're talking about x minus 3, that should be a 0. And 0 is somewhere between -1 and 1, so the answer should be B for this. All right, last 8 problems and they are now finally open-ended. So no more multiple choice now. An object has a mass of 200 and a volume of 10. Density equals mass over volume. Sometimes they gave you the formula. I guess they just expect you to know this now. So 200 over 10 is 20. Density is grams per cubic centimeters. Per means divide. Next time when you see the word per, just use divide and you should be able to get it. So mass over volume, that's what density is. Number 32, an artist decorates the square's plates. The ratio of blue to green is 3 to 2. Artist used 120 blue tiles. All right, 3 to 2, again, label. Blue is 3, green is 2. Ratio, 120 blue and 20 n green. What is the value of n? Must I say more? Cross multiplication. 60 n is equal to 240, n is equal to 40, divide both sides by 60. Next, the solution to the given system of equation is x comma y. Now, when they gave me like this, it's so lovely because the 3x just nicely cancels each other out when you add them. So I'm going to add the top and bottom together. So you get 2y's, double the y's, is equal to 9 plus 3, which is 12. Y equals 6. Super easy stuff. Number 34. Now this seems a little complicated. The circle is divided up into 3 non-overlapping regions, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, this area of region 1 is 4 pi. All right, so I'm going to draw a circle. And there's, all right, so I'm just going to draw 3 regions, 1, 2, and 3. The region 1 is 4 pi, the area of region 2 is 12 pi, and the area of region 3 is 16 pi. So when you add them all up, that should be 32 pi. Yeah. And so that's the total area of the circle. Could have told that in the first place, right? They have to make it complicated. If a point in the circle is selected at random, what is the probability of selecting a point? Okay, I see the word probability. Instantly, you have to think of fractions. I'm going to write this as a fraction. Of selecting a point that does not lie in region 2 means anything but region 2. So 1 and 3 together. So 4 pi and 16 pi added together is obviously 20 pi. So with 20 pi, this is the area that, if you were to throw a dart at it, like it's gonna hit it's gonna hit that blue side of the area. So that is total of 20 pi out of a whopping 32 pi of the entire circle. Cancel out the pi's, reduce the fraction. That will be 5/8 is your total probability. Can you write that as a decimal? Sure, but fraction is much better. 4 spaces, 5/8. That should be a much better way to write it down. Number 35, 1980, the population was 4.44. Population was grow at a rate of that per each year. All right, I see the word each. For, every, each, per, that's always slope. So this means it's going to be a linear expression, y equals mx plus b. In 2015, the world population was 7.35 billion people. What is the positive difference in billions of people between the actual versus the predicted? All right, cool. So the predicted says, with the 4.44 as a starting point, in 1980, with growth of 0.076 billion people each year, the equation would look like y equals 0.076x plus 4.44. X is the number of years after 1980. In the year of 2015, which is 35 years, right? 2015 from 1980, that's 35 years in addition from 1980. That is going to be your value of X. So we want to use this model to predict what's going to happen in the year 2015, and I'm going to use the calculator. So we're going to say 0.076 times 35, okay? X is 35. 35 years has been passed since the year 1980. Then you add that by 4.44 and you get y equals 7.1 billion. This is your predicted. Why? Because you use the model. It's not the actual, because the actual, they literally said in 2005 the world population was a factual 7.35. And what do they ask you to do? The positive difference. Subtract the two. 7.35 minus 7.1. That's 0.25. So we're talking about a 0.25 billion people of difference. And that should be the final answer. Number 26. All right, so I have a weird looking expression with the exponents. How much time in years does it take for the mass of carbon-14 in the sample to decrease to 5 pictograms? Okay. So essentially, I want to half it, right? So mt equals 10, which is your initial value, and you want to go from 10 to 5. That's why I said you half it. 1/2 t over 5, 730. So in order for you to figure this out, you want to make sure you get 10 times 1/2 to the first power. Because if you just multiply by half, you get 5. That's our final result. So what should the value of t be in order for this entire weird-looking fraction to equal 1? Just 5,730 years. Because if you plug it in here, the 5,730 will divide by 5,730, which become 1. And that's what we want, because 10 times 1/2 to the first power is 5. And honestly, it looks like a hard question, but in disguise it's super simple. 2 more questions to go. 37. We have a line. A line best fit is y equals ax. Okay, cool. A point lies above this line if and only if it represents a state with an increase in housing units from 2010 to 2018 greater than 7%. So a lot of the students did not understand what this meant. Housing units in 2010 is on the x. Housing units in 2018 is on the y. What we're saying here is that a year from 2010 to 2018, you have grown by 7% or greater. Like, you've grown by 7%. You want to pick the points that's greater than that. So if I were to really express this, where y is the year of 2018 and x is the year 2010, you have grown greater by 7%, like you increased by 7%, you're going back to this 1 plus the rate all over again. It's the exponential increase. And they say the word exponential. No, they don't. But it's when they give you percentage increase, it's 1 plus the rate. So you do 1 plus 0.07, which means you're looking at 1.07 times x times the year of 2000 is equal to the value of these houses in 2018. So this is the expression. And so if they say a line of best fit with the line of the equation is y equals ax, so what is the value of a? I mean, just match them up, and a literally equals 1.07. Again, the wording of this could have been so much better. I feel like they should just ask you for the slope. I can see so many kids just like trying to figure out 2 points here and there and estimating and like do m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. They're never going to be able to get that, because then they wouldn't have bothered to give you 7% in the first place. You have to somehow utilize that. This was the key. And so the only way to really understand greater than 7% here would be 1.07 by adding by 1, and that's going to be the slope. Yeah. And when they say point a lie above, the above takes care of the word greater. So you're just really looking at the 7% increase, which is 1.07. Last but not least, question number 38. A circle question. Complete the square. I mean, we did this before in the previous video. A circle has a center of 4, -5 and has a radius of 2. Oh, I'm sorry. We don't have to complete the square. We are given the center and the radius. That is so lovely. So why don't we put that into our expression of the circle equation, where it says x minus a squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. If you have already forgotten, h comma k will be your center, which is exactly what I did. Just plug those in. 4 is x minus 4, -5 makes it y plus 5. And r is just 2, so 2 squared. When you expand this, what essentially I'm doing is I'm expanding this by doing x minus 4 times x minus 4. FOIL, first, outer, inner, last. I hope you know how to do that. I'm not going to go over that here. That. And then when you combine the middle two like terms, you're going to get this. Then you get this for the y's. Then you can see how the 16, 25, and the 4, those are all of your like terms that can be combined. These two together will give you 41, but you need to subtract the 4 on both sides. 41 minus 4, the last time I checked, was 37, so that should be the value of C. You can see how x squared minus 8x matches here. Y squared plus 10y matches there, so the only thing that's really left over is C. And because you move the 4 to the left-hand side, by subtracting the 4, you should get equal to 0, which matches with this side over here. All right, so the C value is equal to 37. That should wrap up the entire SAT for the year 2023 October. Hope this helped. Again, next year is all going to be online on the computer, and I heard that the questions are going to be modified to where you get successive questions correct in a row, then they'll give you harder questions or something like that. So not everyone's going to have the same number of questions and same type of questions even. So I don't know what to expect. However, the level of difficulty shouldn't be as different from what you see here. Okay, so I hope this helped, and hopefully on the next video, you guys can find any more resources to help you with your further studies. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.